Nobody cares. At first, those words might sound harsh. They might sting like an insult, like a dismissal of your importance. But look deeper, and you'll find one of the most liberating truths of life. The world is far too busy, too preoccupied with its own problems, its own ambitions, its own dramas, to sit around analyzing your every move. Yes, people will judge, they'll whisper, they'll glance, they'll comment, they'll scroll past your life like it's just another post on their feed, but at the end of the day, the spotlight you think is fixed on you is really nothing more than a flicker in someone else's crowded mind. This realization, when embraced, doesn't make life smaller, it makes it freer. Because if nobody truly cares as much as you think, then the stage is yours to walk however you want. And here, in this truth, the Stoics find wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, a man who carried the weight of an empire, reminded himself every morning that the opinions of others were fleeting shadows. Epictetus, born a slave, understood that freedom doesn't come from applause or recognition, but from inner mastery. Seneca, who wrote letters of wisdom that would outlast his critics, knew that a life well lived is measured by virtue, not validation. Today, we're going to explore how embracing the Stoic truth that nobody really cares can radically shift the way you live. We'll dive into why external judgment matters less than you think, how focusing on your own path builds resilience, and why freeing yourself from the obsession with other people's approval is the first step toward true peace. If you're someone who finds yourself stuck in the loop of seeking validation, if you're constantly wondering what people think, or if you feel paralyzed by the fear of judgment, then this is for you. This is not just a lesson, it's a call to liberation. So stay with me. By the end, you'll understand why nobody cares, and why that's the best news you'll ever receive. And if you're ready to reclaim your energy, your focus, your life, then let's step into this ancient wisdom and see how Stoic philosophy can guide you home.
Section 2. The illusion of attention. We grow up believing that the world is watching us. Every stumble feels like a spectacle. Every failure feels like a headline. Every awkward moment plays in our minds as though the universe paused just to laugh at us. But here's the truth the Stoics knew well. Most people are too absorbed in their own worries, their own desires, their own fears, to care deeply about yours. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in his meditations, "You're worried about other people's opinions, but remember, they too are slaves to their own opinions." Think about it. The same person you fear might be criticizing you today is most likely worrying about being criticized by someone else tomorrow. It's a cycle of imagined attention. We place ourselves under a spotlight that barely exists. How many times have you replayed a mistake in your head, an awkward word, a failed attempt, a rejection, and felt like everyone remembered it as vividly as you? Yet hours later, those same people are back to worrying about their own lives, their own insecurities. You were never the main character in their story. They were. The illusion that everyone cares about you is nothing but ego in disguise. It whispers that your every move is of cosmic significance. But Stoicism strips this illusion away. It reminds us that life is too short, too precious to waste on the fantasy of constant observation. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And nowhere is this truer than in our fear of judgment. We imagine ridicule that never arrives. We picture condemnation that never lingers. We imprison ourselves in chains forged by the opinions of others, forgetting that those opinions are as fragile and fleeting as smoke in the wind. The moment you accept that nobody is truly watching as closely as you believe, you free yourself. You no longer need to perform. You no longer need to craft your every word or action for approval. Instead, you begin to live, not for them, but for you. And that is the first step towards Stoic freedom. Section 3. Turning inward. If nobody really cares, then where does that leave us? It leaves us with a choice. Either we keep chasing the endless carousel of external approval, or we turn inward and build something unshakable, an inner fortress, a citadel that no storm of opinion can break. The Stoics understood this well. They taught that the only true measure of life is how we live in accordance with virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Everything else, status, reputation, wealth, applause, was indifferent. Not because it had no meaning at all, but because it was not the foundation of a good life. Imagine standing in the center of a crowded square. People are shouting, clapping, mocking, judging. The noise swirls around you like a storm. But deep within, there's a quiet chamber, your reason, your principles, your values. And in that chamber, nobody else has access. That is where your life is truly decided. Epictetus, who had every reason to let the opinions of others break him, reminded his students, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Why? Because real growth doesn't happen under the gaze and applause. It happens in the quiet moments, when you choose what is right, not what is popular. Turning inward means asking yourself, am I living by my own compass, or am I swayed like a leaf by every gust of public opinion? Do my choices reflect virtue, or do they reflect fear? Fear of what others might think. This is where freedom begins. When you no longer need the world to validate your existence, you can finally begin to shape your existence. You stop chasing the illusion of being admired and start chasing the reality of being whole. And paradoxically, it's when you stop obsessing about what others think of you that you begin to live in a way that truly earns respect. Because your life is no longer a performance. It's authentic. It's grounded. It's yours. This is the Stoic invitation. Turn inward, not to shut the world out, but to build the strength to face it on your own terms. And in that inward turn lies a peace the world cannot give and cannot take away.
Section 4. Indifference to praise and criticism. We've seen how desire shapes us, how approval and attraction can subtly enslave us. But here's the next prison most never escape: the judgment of others. Every word spoken about you, whether praise or criticism, comes with invisible chains. When people clap, you rise. When they mock, you sink. And in both cases, your power has been handed over. You've allowed their opinion to decide your worth. The Stoics called this weakness. To live by applause is to live like a puppet. To break free, you must practice what Marcus Aurelius described as indifference, not coldness, not arrogance, but equanimity. A calm, unshaken soul that remains steady whether the world crowns you or curses you. Imagine this. You post something online. A flood of likes comes in. Your chest lifts. You feel validated. But soon after, a comment slices through, mocking, dismissive. And suddenly, your spirit drops. Why? Because your inner life is still tethered to external noise. The Stoic response is different. When applause comes, you nod, but you do not feed your ego. When criticism comes, you listen, but you do not bow in shame. Both are seen for what they are, fleeting judgments, no more permanent than passing clouds. Epictetus put it sharply: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, learn to live above reputation. If people call you wise, so be it. If they call you foolish, so be it. Neither changes the truth of who you are. Real freedom arrives when your worth no longer rises or falls with the cheers or jeers of others. You walk the middle path, steady, balanced, untouchable. Because here's the truth. When you no longer hunger for praise and no longer fear criticism, you become dangerous. Society cannot manipulate you. Strangers cannot sway you. And even those closest to you cannot disturb the stillness you carry inside. This is the heart of Stoic equanimity, to live rooted in principle, not in popularity. Section 5. Mastery over emotion. If indifference to praise and criticism steadies the mind, the next frontier is the heart, because no matter how intelligent, disciplined, or self-aware you become, life will test you with waves of emotion. Anger, envy, fear, grief, they strike fast, and if you are not prepared, they rule you. The Stoics taught that emotions themselves are not the enemy. They are signals, natural responses to life. What enslaves us is our attachment to them, our willingness to obey their every command. When anger whispers, "Strike back," we obey. When fear murmurs, "Hide," we retreat. And in those moments, reason has been dethroned and passion wears the crown. Marcus Aurelius warned against this trap. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The battle is not to eliminate emotion, but to master the gap between stimulus and response, to notice the surge of anger without letting it spill into cruelty, to feel fear without letting it decide your fate. Picture it. Someone insults you in public. Your chest burns, your jaw tightens. Instantly, your mind wants to lash out, to reclaim pride. But the Stoic pauses. They breathe. They ask, "Is this worth my peace? Is this truly under my control?" By inserting space between impulse and action, they turn what could have been chaos into calm authority. And this isn't weakness, it's power. Anyone can throw a fist, raise their voice, or collapse into tears. Few can endure the storm inside without surrendering their control. True strength is not loud, it is silent composure in the face of provocation. Modern life offers endless chances to practice this. The rude driver on the road, the dismissive boss at work, the betrayal of a friend. Each moment is a test. Will you be mastered by emotion, or will you master it? The Stoics remind us, your greatest freedom lies in your response, not in controlling the world, but in controlling yourself. And the one who commands himself, his anger, his fears, his grief, is freer than any king. Section 6. The power of silence and observation. After mastering emotion, the Stoics point us towards something modern culture almost despises: silence. We live in an age of noise, constant chatter, endless scrolling, voices shouting to be heard. Everyone is desperate to speak, but almost no one learns to listen. The Stoic knows that silence is not emptiness, it is power. Because when you are silent, you observe, you notice details others miss. You see the truth behind words, the intent behind actions, and in that stillness, you gain an advantage. Think of it this way. In a heated debate, most people rush to respond. They listen only to answer back, not to understand. But the Stoic pauses. They let silence hang in the air. They watch, they absorb, they analyze. And when they do speak, their words strike with precision, few, measured, unshakable. Seneca once wrote, "It is better to be silent and be thought foolish than to speak and remove all doubt." The lesson isn't to remain mute, but to value your words. Speech is like currency. The more carelessly you spend it, the less it's worth. Silence, on the other hand, compounds in value, storing power until the moment it must be released. Modern life offers no shortage of tests here. In arguments, on social media, in workplaces filled with politics and pride, everyone is eager to react. But if you learn to hold back, to watch longer, to delay your response, you begin to play the game from a higher vantage point. Silence also teaches mastery over yourself, because if you cannot hold your tongue, you are still a servant to impulse. The Stoic practices silence to strengthen restraint, and restraint is the foundation of wisdom. So the next time you feel the urge to react instantly, whether to defend your pride, to prove your knowledge, or to strike back, remember this.
Section 7. Discipline, the Stoic's true freedom. If silence sharpens the mind, then discipline strengthens the will. And without discipline, no philosophy, no wisdom, no noble intention survives. The Stoics sought discipline not as punishment, but as liberation. Because what is freedom if you are enslaved by your appetites? What is strength if you cannot command yourself? Look around today. Modern life tempts us with ease, instant entertainment, endless distraction, comfort at every corner. But every indulgence comes at a cost, the slow erosion of will. The man who cannot resist pleasure is weaker than the man who has nothing. Epictetus reminded his students, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Discipline, then, is the practice of mastery, the daily choice to train the body, sharpen the mind, and align the spirit, not according to impulse, but according to principle. It's not about grand gestures. Discipline lives in small, ordinary decisions. Waking up when you said you would, finishing what you start, saying no when temptation knocks. Every act of restraint is a stone laid in the foundation of inner freedom. Picture two men. One follows every craving, food, lust, anger, distraction. The other lives by rule and reason, enduring discomfort for a higher goal. Who is the stronger? Who commands respect, not only from others, but from himself? The answer is obvious. Discipline is also the antidote to chaos. Life will not bend to your will. Loss, failure, suffering, they will arrive. But the disciplined man does not collapse. His habits hold him upright. His self-mastery becomes armor. This is why the Stoics train Dorley as if life itself were a battlefield. Because it is, and those who lack discipline walk into that battlefield unarmed. So discipline is not a burden, it is the ultimate freedom. The freedom from weakness, from addiction, from the tyranny of impulse. To live without discipline is to live as a slave. To live with it is to rise above both comfort and fear, and to stand, at last, sovereign over yourself. Section 8. Patience is power. We live in a world obsessed with immediacy, fast food, fast entertainment, fast results. Everywhere you look, people are sprinting toward the next dopamine hit, scrolling endlessly, chasing shortcuts, craving instant success. But the Stoics remind us of a timeless truth. Patience is not weakness. Patience is strength. To endure, to persist, to wait without breaking, that is true power. For time itself bends to the patient soul. Think of nature. The strongest trees do not shoot up overnight. They grow slowly, year after year, roots deepening unseen beneath the soil. Storms come, seasons change, yet they stand, because patience has built them into fortresses. The same is true for us. Greatness is not built in a day. It is forged through steady, deliberate patience in the face of delay, frustration, and hardship. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote daily reminders to himself, not because change came instantly, but because discipline requires patience. Seneca spoke of time as our most precious possession, urging us to spend it wisely, not waste it in restless haste. And Epictetus taught that progress in philosophy, like progress in life,
comes little by little through practice and endurance. Now compare this with modern life. A man starts going to the gym for 2 weeks, sees little change, and quits. Another begins a project, meets difficulty, and abandons it. Our age has trained us to expect reward without resilience. But the Stoic laughs at this weakness. He knows that mastery is a marathon, not a sprint. Patience is also a weapon against suffering. When pain comes, most resist, thrash, and complain. But resistance only sharpens the edge of suffering. The Stoic endures. He accepts what cannot be changed, and in his acceptance, the pain loses half its power. By waiting calmly, he proves stronger than the hardship itself. And patience is not passive. It is active endurance. It is persistence without panic. It is the quiet refusal to give up no matter how long the road stretches. It is the choice to keep sowing seeds even when the harvest is years away. Ask yourself this: who is stronger? The man who reacts instantly, consumed by every setback? Or the man who holds steady, who does not break under delay, who trusts the process even when the outcome is unseen? The answer is obvious. Patience is the furnace where resilience is forged. It is the mark of one who does not demand life bow to his schedule, but who bends himself to the rhythm of reality. To be patient is to be unshakable, because no delay, no obstacle, no trial can control a man who has mastered the art of waiting. So when the world screams now, 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 the Stoic whispers back, later, when the time is right. And in that stillness, in that discipline of waiting, he gains what others lose, the quiet, unstoppable power of endurance.
Section 9. Memento mori. Remember death. The Stoics carried with them a reminder most people spend their lives trying to forget. Memento mori. Remember that you must die. Not to inspire fear, but to sharpen clarity. We avoid the thought of death because it unsettles us. We hide it behind distractions, entertainment, and endless busyness. But the Stoics walked with it daily. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Why? Because the memory of death is not a curse, it is a compass. When you truly grasp that your time is limited, you stop wasting it. You stop living as if you'll live forever, postponing your dreams, your courage, your love for someday. Death whispers, there is no someday. There is only now. Memento mori strips away illusions. That petty argument, does it matter in the face of mortality? That fear of embarrassment, will it mean anything on your deathbed? That greed for wealth, status, recognition, will any of it follow you beyond the grave? To remember death is to live more fiercely, not recklessly, but urgently. To stop trading hours for nothing. To look at each morning not as routine, but as a gift, an undeserved extension of time that could have ended yesterday. Seneca reminded us, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And so, the Stoic does not waste. He lives with intention, with discipline, with love for the present moment, because he knows it is all he truly has. When you remember death, you are freed from the fear of it. And once you no longer fear death, you no longer fear life. Section 10. Conclusion. The Stoic Path. Desire, indifference, emotion, silence, discipline, patience, death. These are not abstract ideas. They are not dusty relics of ancient philosophy. They are weapons, tools forged in the fire of human struggle, meant to be wielded here and now. The Stoics never promised a life without pain, without loss, without challenge. What they offered instead was a way to walk through those storms unbroken, to live above the noise, to remain steady in the chaos, to master yourself when the world around you cannot be mastered. You will be tempted by desire. You will be tested by criticism.
You will be shaken by emotion, surrounded by noise, pulled toward weakness, pressed by impatience, and shadowed by death. But in each trial, you have a choice: to be a slave or to be free. And freedom, as the Stoics taught, is not found in what you possess, or how others see you, or even in how long you live. Freedom is found in mastery over yourself, in aligning your actions with principle, in living not as the world demands, but as reason and virtue command. So take these lessons, carve them into your days, practice them in silence, in hardship, in every ordinary moment, because the